All right. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to America House. Thank you all for being here today. How many of you have met Peter Kyle already? Everyone here for the... Oh, great, for the first time. Because we're so pleased to have Peter Kyle and Anton Ovchinnikov, thank you very much, back at America House. Actually, Peter, it's your third time here. Is that right?
My
fourth time at America House.
I'm giving a workshop here.
Wow.
Yes.
So you guys are, I can tell you from experience, you are all in for a very big treat. A really incredible time tonight and something probably unlike anything you've ever experienced before. Peter Kyle was here on a Fulbright Fellowship and now is back through a program called Dancing Through Transition, right? Dancing Through Translation, supported by the U.S. Embassy. So special thanks to the Embassy, special thanks to Fulbright for making Peter's visit possible. And they're working on a performance that will be launching next week.
It premieres, the world premiere.
World premiere.
In
Kyiv next week. So I hope you will all get inspired tonight and come to the show. And without further ado, I would like... Oh, wait, sorry. So first, Peter Kyle is from New York City. He has his own company, Peter Kyle Dance. He's won all sorts of awards. And Anton is his partner here in Kyiv. They're working together on this project. And Anton, you're... What's the name of your company here?
My company name is Black Orange Dance Company, and I manage the Zelyonka Contemporary Dance Festival.
Not bad, right? So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm America House welcome to Peter and Anton.
Thank you, Christiane. It's great to be back. It's always great to be here. So, welcome. Anton and I, as Christiane said, are here working together. This is the final phase of a year-long creative research and performance project that started last summer. But the idea of it really has its beginning during my time here in 2016 when I was here for Fulbright. And we want to take some time this evening to explore with you some of the strategies and processes that we've been exploring in our project. So I'm glad that most everybody found a seat. And yet, we are hoping that most of you, all of you, will join us in this big, beautiful open space. Because we're going to move. So, dancing through translation, I mean, it's like they're sort of different things, but I think we're learning that they're actually the same. They involve each other. The beginning idea for this project, I think, really came from a question about how is the body, how are our movements involved in how we process language and how we process ideas in all the various ways that we as humans are able to do. From thinking words, to writing words, to reading them, to hearing them, to feeling sensations and imagining movement, imagining a situation, the distance between people, the weather, the way you feel when you get some kind of news. We of course, because of the way language works, spoken language, we get quite good at separating out these ideas and experiences, but the way we live them always is really completely integrated. We just don't often, in my experience, think very much about the physical part of it all. So, I'd like you to take the next 1 minute and progress from wherever you are right now as your starting place, whether seated or standing, on the edge or in the middle. And I'd like you to take 1 minute to make a change of location for yourself. as a way of coming into awareness of how you're using your body. What parts are you using to move? Just 1 minute to change location, begin now.
Привет, Александра. Change.
That's 30 seconds. You still have 30 seconds.
And
Okay, that's 1 minute. So, movement, dance, to me they're the same thing. I don't really make a distinction between dance and movement. The basic elements of movement and dance are what? What do you think the basic elements of movement are?
Energy.
Energy, great, yeah. What's that? Intention. Engagement, great. What else? What's that? Passion. Passion, yes.
Reason.
Feeling, what?
Reason.
Rhythm, yes, rhythm.
And reason.
and reason.
And reason. Rhythm and reason, there's a good title for something. Breathing.
Inspiration.
Inspiration.
Some
Mechanics.
Muscle
Yes.
contraction.
Yes, absolutely. There's various degrees of contraction in the muscles. What's that? Yeah. Yeah.
Muscle releasing.
So, energy, some words that relate to the body specifically, right? We could get more specific. If you talk about mechanics, you could talk about the mechanics of what?
It depends on what we move.
And get more specific. The body, yes. Mechanics of the body. What
Right?
parts of the body am I mechanically changing?
Okay, I got it.
Right? So the body, energy. I had you do something a moment ago, or for a minute. I asked you to do something for a minute. What was that?
Change.
Change location.
Spatial
Right.
movement.
So a change of spatial orientation, not only of facing, though that is one way of doing that. Levels. What's another way of changing spatial orientation that some of you just did? We did levels. Some of you sat and got up. Some of you changed facings. How else might you do? Speed is another issue, but yes, we changed time. We dealt with time very specifically, both in terms of how much time I gave you, but also some of you moved more quickly, some of you moved more slowly in that amount of time, right? So another aspect of space was maybe the pathway you chose. Were you moving on a curving pathway or only on right angles? You could use the lines in this carpet, for example, to use as a guide. Or you could use bodies to say, oh, excuse me, I'm going to take this way around, and then I'm going to try to fit into this little corner here, right? Or I'm going to sit over here, and I'm going to feel the space between my back and the chair. Everybody feel where you are in space right now. And now make a slight change in your body to increase the space between your body and something that you are touching. Increase the space between your body and something that you are touching. It's an elaborate way of saying, maybe stand up, for example. Or move away from the back of the chair, right? So, there are easier ways to say things and harder ways. So, now I'd like you to change location in the room, first slowly, then more quickly. Go. How slow is slowly for you in this moment? Right? And then change to more quickly. Just make a change in your tempo. And all of this, by the way, is something that you can do seated as well. Right? And now go back to the original slowness that you had, the original tempo. And now go even more slowly. Go more slowly than anybody else that you see moving, but still keep moving. And now while you keep moving your legs this slowly, begin moving your hands more quickly. But keep your legs moving this slowly. And then try to switch gradually how quickly you're moving your hands and your feet. So your feet are going slow, your hands are going fast. Try to switch it so that your feet start to go more quickly and your hands start to go very slowly. And everybody freeze. Freeze. Slowly change the distance between you and someone else. Very slowly. Change the distance between you and someone else. Get closer, get farther. And freeze. And now quickly just move your elbows. Elbows. Keep going. And then slowly move your spine, just your spine. Your spine is made up of what? That's right, vertebrae, many vertebrae, right? That gives us the possibility of moving in what kind of way? Like a certain kind of a sequential, yes, absolutely. Can you keep that sequential movement going in your spine, but just move a little more quickly? And then freeze. And now shift your center of gravity so it's not on 2 feet, but just on 1. And slowly come back to 2 feet. Bring your center of gravity directly between both feet. And then try to quickly shift your center of gravity over the other foot. And then slowly return back to both. All right, quickly change your facing. Put your arms out in front of you and vigorously shake your hands. Vigorously. And then just slowly move your left hand, but keep the right one moving quick. But slow with the left. And now switch to your legs. Quickly move your right leg. Like you're making up a little tap dance with your right foot. And then switch, make a tap dance with the left foot. And now make a slow dance with your right foot. off the floor, just like a breeze is slowly blowing your foot this way and that. And then very, very smoothly transfer your weight from one leg to the other without changing quality. Keep that slow breeze-like movement as you shift your weight and then release the left foot. And then slowly come back to both feet. Feel your weight even on both feet. Feel your arms down by your sides. Make your body as symmetrical as you can. Touch the top of your head gently and feel your length. From that point on the top of your head down to the soles of your feet. Bring your arm down in whatever pathway you choose. And slowly lift your shoulders towards your ears, like they're asking your ears a question. How's it going over there? Fine. How's it going over there? Good. Slowly lower them. Place one hand on your low abdomen and one hand on your low spine. And take 3 generous breaths in and out and just notice motion inside of the body. Slowly lower your arms, feel your length again. And we're just going to begin a slow walk around the room in curving pathways only. So no sharp angles, only curves. The body moving only in curving pathways. And we could have a little bit of slow, smooth music as a way of introducing 2 more of Anton's and my collaborators, Tatiana and Maria. They're going to gradually introduce some sound, some other sound into the environment. There's already lots of sound here. If you hear a particular kind of sound or a duration of sound from their music that captures your interest, you might pause, listen to it again, and then move a part of your body in time with that sound. Maybe your elbow, maybe your head, maybe your hand, your knee, your pelvis. So bring the timing of your movements into relationship to the sounds that you hear. They could be small movements. They could be big. You choose what part of the body you're moving in time with what sound. You could change level. asking you to notice what changes come into your awareness, and then to introduce a change of your own into your body as a system, and into the room, and into the system of all of our bodies working together. There's no right or wrong, there's just choosing. And I'd like you to slowly, as the music gets quieter, bring your body into stillness in time with the music going quiet. Don't stop before, as long as you hear music. Remember the exact shape that you're in right now. Where is your weight in your feet? Where are you looking? What's the relationship between your hand and your back? And in 4 movements, just come to standing symmetrically. Feel your length again. Remember that place on the top of your head. And in one slow, smooth movement, pour your body like you're pouring honey. Pour your body back into that last shape that you had a moment ago. Begin. How does honey move? And quickly come back to standing. Can you repeat that last shape, but on the other side of your body? Go. And like, something that breaks in a really quick way, like icicles. Move your body back to standing. Close your eyes for a brief moment and just listen and see if you can hear 3 different sounds in the environment. So, I'd like you to get a partner. If you don't know the person, please introduce yourselves. So, we've been using a lot of different kinds, or I've been using a lot of different kinds of spoken vocabulary over the last 10 or 15 minutes. You've been processing that vocabulary in a wide variety of ways, sometimes by using your eyes, sometimes by relying just on your ears, maybe other times by just feeling something, an impulse. Sort of raises the question, where does the impulse to move begin? Does it begin in the body? Does it begin in the brain? The brain is really just another body part, sort of all connected, right? So with your partner, one of you is going to use words only. And you're going to, I'm going to ask Anton to direct me to move my body using only his words.
Without showing anything.
Without showing
Just
anything.
using the words.
Just using your words.
Bend your left elbow 90 degrees. Turn your head to the left 35 degrees.
Ooh, 35.
Bend your right knee 90 degrees. Point your right feet. Put your right feet on the ground. Twist your torso to the right 45 degrees. Bend your left knee 20 degrees.
Ooh, 20. It's so specific.
You know, I have an experience
Yeah.
of creating performance with that.
Yes.
Let's just come to neutral position.
So we're going to call this neutral position.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not neutral, really. But
Maybe
that's what
neutral
we
is
call
on
it.
the floor.
We call
Yeah.
it, right? So with your partner, please do this for...
And you can be as much specific as you want. You can just say, right hand up. It's okay. Or you can be more specific, like make a circle with the hand and put it up like this. I mean, drawing the circle or half circle.
And I should say
yeah.
English only.
Only English, yeah, that's important.
And with any translation, there's interpretation happening. With any translation, there's some amount of information loss, we could say. Not that we're aiming to lose information, but I think the process of me completely understanding exactly what Anton had in mind, for example, we could have a discussion about that.
And there's also one, I don't know if it's an option or the way to do this task. The one thing is one option is when you give the task, you imagine what you want your partner to do. Like I can imagine him staying like this. And then I'm starting giving him tasks to calm him, to bring him to this position. Or I'm just doing experiment. I don't have any imagination. I just give him what's just watching. This is two different,
different ways of
different
working.
ways
Right?
of working.
One is
yeah.
working to
you can
realize.
choose any you wish. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move out of the center, and I want you all to fill up the room equally, please. Should we introduce some more music during this?
Yeah, of course, yeah. The music can play.
Let them play.
Yeah. Anything.
I think you should feel free to interject, to add in some sound if you'd like during this. But you don't have to. It's up to you.
Then switch roles. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. They don't have a photographer?
All right, and I'm going to ask you to wrap up. Just have one final direction for your partner, and then we're going to switch roles. All right, switch roles if you haven't yet. Please switch roles.
It's very easy to see the dancers here because for them it's easy, like put your hands to the first position. Put your hands to the first.
Okay. Ira, right?
Ina.
Great to meet you.
See you on 14. Yeah.
Great. Take care.
See you. That's who has a photo.
All right, one final direction for your partner. And then in 3, 2, 1, come to stillness and bring it to silence and just listen. Now, half of you come to this side of the room, and everybody else stay with your partner, right? So you guys have your partner still? Great. Now, we're just going to do the same thing, but I'm going to ask our musicians to offer up some additional information for translation. Right? It's an interesting question. Are they translating what they see into sound? Or are you translating what you hear into movement? Where are they meeting? So what I'd like to do is, with your same partner, I'll start with this side of the room, spread out a little bit, and do the same thing.
In this group, we will just see what they just watch what they do.
And see what you notice about the way people are moving, the kinds of things you're noticing, and then we'll switch roles again, okay? We won't do this quite
and just
long
remember, when you have your directions, you can choose which speed you want to use. Like if your partner give you the task, like bend the elbow, you can do it like this. It's dependent on the music, for example, or do it like this. So you have many options.
Go back to those basic elements: time, space, energy. The body, all right? Spread out.
2-3 minutes, yeah, I think, and then change, yeah.
And begin. Remember to listen to the sound of the music every now and then. continue, but switch. Listen to the music for some inspiration. And bring it to a close. Slowly bring it to stillness. And let the music come through stillness. And freeze. All right, think about how that felt, how that went. Think about what you observed, what you noticed. And let's switch groups, all right? Group 1, go to the side. Group 2, come out into the middle, please. And we'll have a different kind of sound this time, all right? Begin whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready, begin.
Don't wait for music, just begin. It's interesting, like you can use the tasks like touch my nose with your right arm, or with your right thumb. Put your left hand on my right shoulder.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like this. It could be, you know, like given a partner in task.
Yeah.
Share your weight with me.
Yeah. The next thing we'll do is
the text.
And switch roles.
Okay. Okay. Show me your hand. No. Put your hands up. Okay. And now turn your head. Turn your head. Put your
Remember to listen to the music every now and then. And let's bring it to a close.
Yeah, okay. And now, okay, counter preposition.
All right. Very good.
Good.
Excellent. So, a couple of quick observations before we move on to the next task. Something that you noticed, either in the watching people work in this way or in the doing it. Anybody? Both, and the doing it involves the person giving the cues or the person responding. Anybody have any observations, any thoughts they'd like to share?
Yep, one.
Yes, please.
There is a time between you understand what the other person wants you to do and the thing that you're trying to, okay, where is my left hand?
Absolutely.
So there is like a time and
In a different way, if you want the person want to do something, you're thinking, oh, what leg and what hand she had to move,
Yes,
what direction
absolutely.
to have what you want.
Yes. Anybody else?
It takes time and effort to find a way to tell the person what you want the person to do in a way that the person does what you want to do. So the person understands you the way you want them to understand you.
Yes. And are you noticing that there are certain kinds of words that you are using more than others? I guess what I mean, yeah, I'll just ask it that way. Are there certain kinds of words that you're relying on more than others? Are they, what's that? Please?
Please.
Very polite. I guess what I mean is mechanical words,
Turn, bend, like shake.
action words,
Yeah.
right? Great. And then how much are you using qualitative words, adjectives?
Like forward or
Some?
not a lot.
Not a lot, but maybe some? Yeah. So that's an interesting thing about this, right? This process of coming to understand what someone wants you to move, right? There's the mechanical part of it, but then there's also the aesthetic part of it. And how many of you were able to really use the music in a very deliberate way with the commands you were giving? Or were you more kind of not paying very much attention to the music?
we focus on the directions.
Yeah. Right, so it's interesting. At any given moment, there's so much information that we're being bombarded with, really. Right? My thoughts, people moving, light, sound, and we're always prioritizing what is important to us or what we need, right? So on some level, we could say that there's just a lot of unconscious choosing happening. And then on top of that, we're trying to bring a level of consciousness to some of the choices that we are making as well, right? So we're going to thank you for all of your comments. We're going to shift gears and do a related task, but it's a little different. I'm going to let Anton introduce it.
Yeah.
All right? Do you want it up now, or do you want to wait a moment?
Wait a moment. You
Okay.
mean
Yeah.
the text,
the image,
the
yeah.
description?
Yeah.
Yeah, later. First the task.
Okay.
So now you will see at the screen, you will see the description of the quite complex movement. Actually, this description is a part of our research process. The process itself was like watching people outside on the streets, make the videos of them, then coming home and trying to describe the movement that you see on the video only with the words. And the thing that you will see now, it's the description of very a kind of pedestrian movement. Please don't, because we need to, yeah. And we will have two roles now, two roles.
So maybe work with the same partner?
Maybe same partner, but we will not shift because we
Right.
won't have time
Yeah,
enough. So
yeah.
one of you will give instructions and another person will try to make what you hear and trying to remember it as a kind of movement sequence.
Right.
And another thing which makes it more difficult is that you will see that the text is on Ukrainian and the person who will give the task should translate it to English right now. So if you have your partner like this, your partner should stay with his back to the screen so he don't see it. And I only can see the text, and I read like the first sentence, and I translate it to English, and he just doing this. Then I translate the next sentence, and he do this. And he's just trying to remember what happened and actually to understand what happened, because it's not just an abstract movement, it's movement with a kind of intention.
Right.
Because people usually move in life with intention, not just like, if it's not a discotheque or something.
Right.
So find your partner and choose what you want to do.
Yep.
Do you want to describe what you see and translate, or do you want to make it physical?
And once we see everybody in place, we'll bring the image up for the people on this side of the room to be able to see. All right?
No, we don't change roles because we don't have time for this. Yeah.
All right?
Everybody together. Everybody together. Yeah.
All right? So, with your partner, one of you is facing this wall and the other person is facing that wall. And
yeah, please.
thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.
So, the people facing the wall begin. You can move just fine.
There's a special thing there that I wrote, that the feet in a parallel second position. That's the dancers for the people. What is second position?
That's right.
Parallel is okay, but the second is.
another minute or two to get as far as you can. If you don't get all the way, that's fine. Just another minute or two. So we're gonna.
Let's try. Let them show how they understood
Right.
this.
All right, bring it to a close.
Video stopped.
Right? And now, let's take the video down.
No. I mean the just text out. Yeah.
So, okay. So now just in the people who are dancing, the people who got all of the information, who is facing this way. I want you to just do a little, what I call an armchair rehearsal. Right? You know an armchair?
This.
You don't need a chair, but you can just stand. But it's meant, just visualize the whole thing that you just learned. Right? This has been proven, actually, this kind of visualization to actually be an effective way of advancing your ability, right? So just take a moment, find a quiet place. If it's helpful for you to close your eyes, just visualize the information, the sequence that you learned so that you can do it with intention, right? And the rest of you, the people that gave the instructions, I'm going to ask you to just step to the side. So you're visualizing what your sequence is. You're thinking about maybe the first thing that you're going to move. How does it begin? Where does the intention come from in your body, right? And so we're going to ask you, we're going to introduce some music here that has and I want you to find your way into using this music with your movement.
And try just to show what you have, what you got.
Just think of it as rehearsal.
Yes, you can
Doing
repeat.
what you learned, and you can repeat it. Yes, once you get to the end, start over. Introduce a slightly different music, or very different music. Now use this music with the same movement. Same movement. Everybody freeze. Thank you very much. Excellent work. Excellent. So before we move on to the next thing, any quick reflection on how that went? How that was maybe different from the last thing we did?
That was so different.
How? In what way?
Hard question. Okay, that was pretty cool.
Okay.
This is like, not every day you do like stuff like that.
Isn't that interesting?
That's right.
But we move every day all the time.
No,
Right?
The meaning is that we don't do like this every day.
Right.
But this is kind of fun.
Good, I'm glad. Anybody have any observations about how this was different? If you were watching it, what you noticed differently about the way people are inhabiting or living in their bodies, or the way that it changed when music was added, or the way it changed for the people giving instructions because you were having to translate from Ukrainian into English. I mean, how was that?
So I got some insight because when you read what someone just written, so it's very hard for you to explain to others because you have more than one interpretation how it could be.
Of course.
And you're thinking just what was the right, what he meant, who wrote that.
Yes.
That's what he wanted to say, because you know that you can do that in many ways.
Yes.
And it was a really good start because.
Right, so that's fascinating because you're coming up against an interesting question about, well, what is my responsibility to the author?
Yeah.
And how much free choice can I make? How much free interpretation? How far can I go down this or that road? And in many cases, that aspect of interpretation is a part of our daily existence, right? I mean, and certainly for us in this project, it's been a question that we come up against in lots of different ways. It's well, what do you mean, actually? And how do I come to understand what he actually means? It's fun and tricky. Thank you. Anybody else? Final observations about this? Yes?
And the difference from the last task, it was that the person had to remember this movement. One problem that you have to introduce, and the second that the person has to remember it, so it can be easier.
Yes. Welcome to the life of a dancer. Yes.
Like long sentences which you should remember, but you what's in the beginning?
Absolutely.
When you read in Kant.
Yes.
From the beginning of the sentences you forgot what was.
That's right. That's right. It can go a lot of different directions and then eventually come back to the beginning point, right? That's a great analogy, like a sentence. Yeah.
Well, but when the music comes, you don't focus on what you memorized before. You just let it flow.
Yes. Yes. And so you let it flow, which is fantastic. I think that's always a good direction to go, to find the flow.
Yeah.
Did you experience losing specificity in your movement because of that? And do you think you could get it back with more time?
Well, I don't need it. I just did what I wanted to do.
Yes, right, right. But if you were having to do it exactly with another person, the exact same thing, right? If you're wanting to create a design where two people are doing really exactly the same thing, or something that is maybe contrasting but in a very specific way, then this process of pausing, going back, thinking, rethinking, coming back, listening to the sound, how do you want it to go, right? Then you can understand how it's composition, right? It comes together in that way. All right, we're going to switch gears again and do another...
One more task.
One more task, all right? So this time you can work on your own. You don't need a partner. I'm going to read instructions to you in English from one of the... This is also some material from our performance that we're making that premieres next week. It's called Shirts and Shoes, by the way. So beginning with your right foot, exit an interior space through a doorway into what you imagine to be an outside, the exterior. Go 6 steps on your tiptoes with a slight gallop. On step 3, so we're going to repeat that again, what you just did. On step 3 of those 6 gallops, pause slightly, sustain, and raise your right hand slightly with your right elbow bending. And look off to the left. into the distance. So I'm going to go back. Go back to where you began. Beginning with your right foot, exit an interior space through an imagined doorway into an exterior space. 6 steps on tiptoes with a slight gallop. So there's emphasis with the slight gallop. On step 3, you sustain. And there's a brief pause as the right hand lifts slightly with the right elbow bending. And you look off into the distance to the left. Try to do just that. Go. And go back and try to do the exact same thing again. Just remember your version of this, right? You have freedom to interpret this how the words inspire you. Try it again. Great. So you're in this pause, right? And you're looking off into the distance to the left. So now you look down briefly to take care that you're not falling off a step. There's a step. You're going down a step, right? Imaginary. And then take 11 more steps going forward, also on tiptoes, like a short run, short steps in a run. And it gradually decelerates. It gets slower as you go. So 11 more steps, also on tiptoe, gradually decelerating, becoming a walk before you stop. By the time before you stop, go. 11 more steps, also on tiptoes, gradually decelerating until you stop. Go back to the beginning. Beginning with your right foot, exit an interior space through a doorway out into an exterior space. 6 steps on tiptoes with a slight gallop. On step 3, sustain, and you come to a brief pause. The right hand raises slightly with the right elbow bending. Look down briefly to mind the step before continuing. With 11 more steps, also on tiptoes, and decelerating, becoming a walk before you stop. Go. All right, so we just finished those 11 steps, right? Immediately after coming to stillness, keep your attention off in the distance to your left. The whole body now faces left as well. Crouch down and reach your left hand toward your left heel. And your right arm, this abducts, that's a technical term, it means pulls away from. Your right arm pulls away from the body toward the back, toward back space, as a counterbalance to the crouch. So the right arm is a counterbalance to that crouching action that you're doing. Go back up. So you just finished the 11 steps, right? You've decelerated. You're still looking off in the distance, and now the whole body faces left. You crouch down, reaching the left hand toward the left heel, and the right hand counterbalances the body in the crouch. Pull up a sock on your left foot. There's a sock on your left foot, and you're reaching down to pull it up, like it slipped on your ankle, right? Pull up the sock in one small, decisive movement. Small, decisive movement. The right arm lifts sympathetically, meaning at the same time, but just in a very small way. So as you pull up the sock, the right arm lifts in the same way. The left hand is grabbing the sock. The right arm is going to lift up because of the force of that little pull. Then slowly stand erect. Slowly stand upright, attention still strongly, plaintively. That's a good 10-cent word. Plaintively, off into the distance, arms down at your side. She's hopeful, but not settled. Hopeful but not settled. Go back to the beginning. And you can begin whenever you're ready. Beginning with right foot, exit the interior space through the doorway out to the exterior. 6 steps on tiptoes with a slight gallop. On step 3, sustain and come to a brief pause. The right hand raises slightly with the right elbow bending. Look off into the distance to the left. Look down briefly to mind the step before you continue with 11 more steps, also on tiptoes, and decelerating, becoming a walk before a resting. Almost immediately after, come to stillness. Keep attention on the distance, off into the distance. The whole body now faces left. Crouch down, reach the left hand toward the left heel. The right arm pulls away from the body as counterbalance. Pull up the sock with the left hand on the heel. One small decisive movement, and the extended right arm lifts sympathetically. Then slowly stand erect. Attention strongly, plaintively off in the distance, arms at your side. She stands hopeful, not settled. Go. What does she see? How far in the distance? These are choices you can make, right? All right, so half of you come here, and the other half stay there. We're just going to do it again. I'm not going to speak the words. You have your script. Spread out, face any direction. We're just going to watch and observe, and then we'll switch. All right? Ready? Begin whenever you're ready. Go. Terrific. Excellent. Switch groups. Switch groups. Have a thought about your beginning, what your intention is, spatially, energetically, in the body, and begin when you're ready. Fabulous. Thank you. Excellent. All right. Everybody watch the video screen, please. And I'd like you to just maybe think of, as you watch, we'll maybe play it twice. I'd like you to just think of one word that comes to mind for you, whatever that is, while watching. Whenever you're ready, Sasha. All right, so we didn't continue on, all right? So let's do it one more time. see if you might come up with a different word that gets you more specific in your observation. Go ahead, Sasha. All right. Thank you, Sasha. All right. So I'm just going to, that's Ellie. Ellie is my grandniece. She's 4. So give me some words. I'm just going to be scribe here for a moment.
Natural.
Natural.
Funny. Cheerful.
What's that?
Cheerful.
Cheerful.
Simple.
Simple.
Arrival.
Arrival.
Like somebody came. She's happy.
Huh?
Impatient.
Impatience. Joy. Maybe one more?
Impressed.
What's that?
Impressed.
Impressed. Interest. Good. Okay, so right off the bat, I think this is very interesting, the kinds of words that you thought of. What do you notice about them? What do you notice might be missing?
Movement.
Yeah. Right? Isn't that interesting? They're all beautiful qualitative words that describe maybe a sentiment, a quality, a feeling. But what's missing is specificity of action. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So think through again. And in red, I'm going to write maybe some words that come to mind. I gave you many of them already in my writing. But maybe there's something that stands out to you based on what you saw. Someone? And I'm looking for a more specific, so less in the realm of adjective and more in the realm of verb, maybe, or noun, like what moved, in what way. Okay, so tell me, how do you, gallop, like what do you have to do to gallop?
Quick.
So there's quickness, okay, that's another quality word, right?
Destination and goal. Like she went somewhere.
All right.
Exact, like,
Yes, and that maybe can relate to this interest, right? So you have a destination in mind. You orient yourself towards it, so there's a certain kind of spatial awareness, right? Get more specific with this action.
Bouncy run?
Bounce around.
No. Bouncy run.
Bouncy run. Great.
The hands, the arms flopping loosely on the sides of the body.
Arms flopping. Great words. Loosely. Okay, now even to get more specific, what part of the arms? The whole arm?
Palms.
The palms. Great, that's more specific. Anybody have something else they want to add? Scratching. Okay. Yes, down here, right by the ankle. So, and scratching, how? Gently. Okay, great. Another good quality word, qualitative word. What about, like, what do you have to move to scratch? Hands. Get more hands are made up of a lot of parts. Okay, fingernails. I can't actually move my fingernails independently. What do you call these guys? Right, knuckles. Yes, who said that? You did. Yes, knuckles. And phalanges is the anatomical name of the bones that make up the fingers, right? Yeah, and they're very similar to what we have in our feet as well, right? So you could get really specific if you took a lot of time with this video and say, okay, she moves her that, right? In this way, this many times, blah, 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 right? So the point is clear that this process of deciphering movement, of translating movement that you see in a with precision, that is not only relying on, I mean, I guess interpretation is involved in both things, right? But here we're really relying on a lot of assumptions. We're making a lot of our own, we're imposing a lot of our own ideas on what we're seeing, right? And probably with a high degree of accuracy. But there's some information that if you were saying, I mean, as we learned today with the words giving each other directions, et cetera, there's information that sort of, we say, falls through the cracks, right? A teacher of mine used to describe the process of choreographing, of making dances, as picking up a scoop of sand in one hand and trying to walk across the room and give every grain of that sand to the dancer, to the other person. That it necessarily, you're going to be, some information will be lost from my body to his body or your body or what have you, or from my imagination to your bodies, which is not a problem, it's just sort of a reality, and that's what gives a lot of definition to the kinds of things we're working on in this project, certainly. Any questions or observations?
What she was doing in reality?
Ellie, my grandniece, right? We were at my nephew's wedding, and so it was a big family gathering for the first time in a while. And my grandniece was running out the door to see her aunt, who was staying in the house next door and getting something from her car. So she went outside looking for her, and actually you can hear her sweet little voice saying, Aunt Katie, where are you?
So there were some arrivals there.
I don't remember if it was, yes, there was some kind of...
she saw somebody and then...
She knew she was there already, I think. Maybe someone inside had said, oh, go look, she's outside over there. But yeah. And then she came running back, right? And she saw me filming her. And she knows me, but not all that well. So she freaked out and ran the other way, which, you know, one of the things I love about it is just, you know, the logic of our body, the logic of our system. When we need to do something, everything just like, it works, hopefully. Okay. So we thought we would end our session this evening just with a little bit of conversation, a little more conversation. Also to give you some more information about our project, about our performance next week, and answer any questions that you might have for Anton and myself. And again, I want to introduce Tatiana and Maria just to thank them for their help today, and thank you, Sasha, for all of your help.
And they not only help us here, but they also create the whole music, the whole soundtrack for the performance. They just started together with us.
Yep.
On 23rd of July. Yeah, and it's already finished, almost already finished. We have 1 week. So the premiere is going to happen on 14th. So it's next week in Les Courbas Center, not far from here. We'll have 2 days here in Kyiv, 14th and 15th. Then we go to Lviv on 17th, then Kherson, 19th, and then the last one in Kharkiv. It's 22nd of August at the festival Żywi. There's a festival, big festival in theater, actually festival. So you can come see it in any city, or you can go with us.
You can be our
if
roadies,
you want.
You can be our groupies.
Yeah. So any questions? Because when we meet, when Peter arrived to Kyiv on 22nd of July, and we didn't have any particular idea what we're going to do with that material that we had. We had that material, we had our observations, he has his material, I have mine, we have videos, we have texts, we have translations, and then we just come and started. And there will be, I think, at least 1 hour long performance.
Mm-hmm. So just to backtrack a moment, we met in 2016. We decided we wanted to work on a project together. We were fortunate enough to get this support, this grant from the US Embassy for our proposal, to support our proposal to do this project. So since last summer, really, Anton and I have been observing other people moving, transcribing those into our own writings. In some cases, he then had to because unfortunately, I wish I spoke Ukrainian, but I don't. So he had to read my writings only in English, but he also translated his own writings from Ukrainian into English for me. So there's various levels of translation happening, right? And then we came back together. We spent a week together here in March, workshopping some strategies, some ways that we thought we might want to work with some dancers. And then we came together 2 weeks ago with a group of 4 other dancers, 2 musicians, lighting designer, costume designer, graphic designer, tour manager, et cetera, to make this thing come to life, right? So we've been building a body of material, and now it's the moment where we're in the thick of introducing and collaborating with all of these other artists on creating an evening called Shirts and Shoes. So, well, don't applaud yet. I'm curious to hear from you all what you maybe thought you were getting into this evening and how the experience on this end of it now, maybe something different happened. Maybe it's exactly what you expected. I don't know. And I'm also interested to hear if you have any questions about this performance, this process. Please.
So the question is, what was your personal interest in investigating and observing people, just trying to interpret their actions? That's what drove you to do that. Were you out to find an answer or the question or something else?
That's great. I mean, as dancers, I'll speak for myself, but I think most people that are dancers professionally are really interested in movement, both that they do, but also that they might see in the world. For me, this kind of line of research, if you will, began many years ago when I worked on an evening-length solo project where I watched other people and taught myself the movement. And I wasn't expecting this to happen, but I discovered that trying to learn other people's movement and not just superficially imitate, it kind of changed me. It made me notice that the way I have lived in this world, like I remembered my father as I was working on other people's bodies, movements. I remembered other things, and it was like I started to piece together an idea about the relationship between my own experience with movement, how I come to know another person. There are certain things that we've gotten to learn about each other and about our collaborators just by watching and spending time in a room together, as you would with anybody. So some of it came about from that, and then some of it came about from a question, a genuine question. Does culture exist in the body? How does it? Because we started to think, oh, is there a difference really between the way Americans move and the way Ukrainians move? I mean, generally I think we can agree not much difference. But there are some specific things that are a little different. So that was a question that came up. And I don't know that we're hoping to arrive at an answer, but the pursuit of the question is continues to be really interesting.
Yes, I think that as a dancers and as a human, we are happy to have a very, I would say, very specific instruments how we remember the movement. It makes being a dancer quite easy, because we mostly count on our eyes, on our vision. Sometimes we even don't need any explanations, and it's much easier to remember, to learn movement, just to show it, to see, and just repeat. And for me, it was a kind of when you change approach, like, okay, let's not show it at all and just describe it with the words. Everything is changing. Absolutely, it becomes crazy difficult, like absolutely another world. But it's also give a lot of different possibilities. Like one of the most interesting for me now, which actually happened at our rehearsals as an idea and as a part of creating performance, actually, is how we can create a portrait, or I would say a portrait of another person, just repeating that person's movement.
As we understand it.
As we understand it. Not trying to be an actor, not trying to repeat emotions, but just reading about the movement and recreating this and embody this movement, and then trying to see, and also trying, when you're trying to embody somebody else's movement, it's a kind of the way of walking a mile in someone else's shoes. Like, it's a way to understand, to feel somebody else's nature. Yeah, it's very interesting process.
But don't you think you are missing something? Like, it was a cool experience today. Thank you for that. But I feel like only replicating the mechanics is incomplete in the whole process. So, like here, you can replicate the whole process of movement, but without feelings, without the left side of the board. It's incomplete.
Right, and I'm not suggesting that we do away with the left side. I'm just saying it's interesting that that's where we first went, and to try to find a balance with that in order to better understand and get more specific with what our observation is. In this case with Ellie, I know her, but in most of the people that we observed for this project, they were complete strangers. And we were maybe watching them from this close, or maybe watching them from very far away. So there's a lot of assumptions that we are making. And I think it is, I mean, what does a painter do when they're trying to paint a landscape? What does a musician do when they're trying to record an impression of the way the sunlight felt at a particular beach? I mean, these are our experiences of living are completely tied in with our physicality. And we can't only describe them through our emotional state. I mean, we could, but I think in that situation, we're also missing a lot.
Yeah.
So, and it's quite an artificial thing, I would say. It's because we decided to do this.
Yeah.
Let's separate emotions from the physical thing. Actually, in life, when we talk about life, and I'm reading now the book about the non-verbal communication. There are a lot of books on this topic, and the main thing about this is that verbal and non-verbal communication is the things that is impossible to separate. They always come together. So the things that we actually do, it's quite an experiment. But at the same time, it gives us the new knowledge about what our physical body and mechanics is. It's just because to know something new about ourselves, we have to find some new approaches, like this one.
Yeah.
Made me think about a lot, also like beside the translation point, about the power of language. Like, you know, maybe because I was working with symbolic violence before, and language is one of the media of it, but just, you know, it is in a way violent to receive the orders and to execute them in a way. And
yeah.
I had a couple of moments like, okay, this is actually not comfortable at all. Like, you know, should I do it? And like, I do it my way in a way. Or there's room for interpretation.
Yes.
But it's also a good place to see, okay, how do you actually follow the orders, or how do you give them, or do you want to bring a person into a weird place, like an uncomfortable, you know, you have this intention anyway. So that was quite amazing, actually.
Right.
And how
That's
do you
another
go about
aspect
it? Do
of
you
this.
choose a way like which is like good for your body and natural, or do you want to execute the order like as precisely as possible?
Right, and I think this, anytime you have, we created a lot of relationships today, right? And we could look at them and say, okay, this is a power relationship. I suppose every relationship is a power relationship in some way, right? And just by the fact that we had one person give an instruction to the other, automatically we maybe go to a place where we're assuming that that person who's giving the words has more power than me as the person who's living, who's responding, or there's different aspects of relating to each other, and I think we're finding that the creative impulse in response to a direction, maybe direction is the wrong word, a prompt, an invitation. Maybe if we called them invitations rather than directions, right? Or someone said we used please a lot. Please make 11 steps. Suddenly, you maybe feel more free to make whatever kinds of steps you want rather than feel like you have to do this kind or whatever. And that's been a big part of our creative process, is how faithful do we need to be to that little girl? Are we trying actually to is it more important that we try to be exactly like her? Or is it more important that whoever is performing, I mean, you can't avoid that on some level you have to figure it out for yourself in your own body, in your own logic. So it raises a lot of interesting questions about communication, about freedom and choice and responsibility, and we've talked about, are we creating documentary dance?
And also I want to say that I just noted tonight actually that actually I first time saw this video with Ellie.
Right.
Nobody
in the cast.
Because we learn all movement just from the description, all the material for performance. Yes, I just saw it first time, and I just understood that we did it more or less same but different. But many things are really different. But still, we have a team of 5 dancers and plus Peter, and all of us do it the same way, a kind of in unison. And but it's interesting because we found that way that we do it. I mean, there are many different ways, creative ways, when you hear or when you read the text to embody this. But still, when we started with finding our own ways, and then after this we started making it together without music. And then after 2 or 3 rehearsals, you see that we do it same.
More and more similar.
More and more similar, and it makes a kind of group work is in a very special way. Like we are unconsciously trying to be the same. Maybe because we are dancers, I don't know. But we don't have this task to be the same.
Right.
But still, it looks like, yeah.
There's sort of a natural tension there.
Yeah. When you're being in group, trying to make things like in unison. I don't know.
Right.
Yep. Any questions?
Did you try to make some more describable description, like trying to put in a context, like in a metaphoric way, like trying to imagine yourself like a girl who you are 5 years old, you have like this weight or this height, you are standing on a wooden stair.
Yeah. We did this.
In some cases
also.
We did. Not in all cases.
Yeah, we did. We make different. Sometimes we give context, like for example, for that dancer you've been trying to recreate. Yeah, the context is the drunk dancer at the outside street festival. So you just, and also I gave the dancers a kind of what the dancer, what that person, what clothes he has, what is his age, like have some idea, and that he is drunk, and any other things should come from imagination. Yes. Right. So the general context sometimes is important.
It also will be the absolutely different movement because everyone has their own imagination about
Yes.
But I guess it will be more conscious in the way of the energy when you are putting on the content yourself, not only on your mind or your body, you put your conscience on the content.
Yes.
It is,
Absolutely, and I think
different levels, so very gently level. Of
yes. Absolutely, and what you're talking about, this idea of energetic sensitivity, has been something that's come up especially in the last 2 days of our rehearsal. We're at the point where we have a pretty good sense of a structure for what we're doing, and we're 2 weeks away from that very first moment of each of us responding to these texts or whatever we were working from. And in some ways that I wish I could bottle. I wish I could capture that very first impression that any of us has, because it's so fresh, right? But in the process of rehearsing and trying to come to an understanding about, oh no, you need to be here then, and you have to hit this piece of music, or we need you to be in this relationship to each other, we start, as Anton was suggesting, coming to agreement, but also that coming to agreement might mean making some choices that are becoming more about form than about content. So in the last couple of days, one of the notes that I have given and have noticed about myself is, okay, now that we're where we are, let's go back to our process and let's reflect again on the inner life of these people that we imagine. Let's go back to the energy changes that we observed, however we were able to observe it or imagine it. So it is, I think, just a part of the natural flow of the creative process of working in a group where we're having to start here, go over here, and then maybe make our way back around here again, and then go out again, and then maybe we touch back into this home base a little bit of original expression, I guess, is what you're talking about also. Specificity of expression.
I just remind one work of the one artist who put 3 chairs on a gallery for a space. It was real chairs, like this one, and the photo of the chair, and some painting. I'm not really sure about this material. But anyway, if you take 3 of the performer, and all of them will have different partiture. For example, one of them will have a partiture of describing, very describing with details. One of them, it will be just directions of doing, and the third one will get the body language only. And it will be the 3 different works of this the same partiture, but in different instruments.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Fascinating.
It would be nice to try, right?
Yes, yes, indeed. Anybody else? Yes.
Have you found any difference in the way Americans move and Ukrainians move?
I guess the short answer is yes. There are a couple of, but in very specific ways, very limited and specific ways. And I don't know that I can say that it's because they're Ukrainian specifically as opposed to American, or if it's because of a particular period in history in Ukraine. I mean, I think we're finding that there are, I'm not going to say too much about that because it's part of our production, and I'm hoping you'll come and maybe see. But there are some experiences that I've had coming here and living here, not for very long, but for enough time to have some intimacy with daily life here. And I am able to observe that there are certain things that are different. Maybe some personal space differences, some gestures, some daily movements that might happen for certain kinds of tasks that are different than the way we do it back home. And I don't know, again, is that because of these people being Ukrainian and these people being American, or is it like what else? What are the other factors at play? I don't know. What do you have to say about that?
I think there are some. There's more difficulties connected, or difficulties or specificities connected with the specificities of the languages.
Yes.
I would say yes, because the people who study actually language, like you, like philologs, or how you call it in English, I don't know. Linguists, yeah. You know much more than people who just learn English in school or some other ways. And for me, it's a kind of not only process of research in a dance field or movement field, but also research in the language field, because we talk a lot about translated and how to talk about the movement, how to describe movement in English language and in Ukrainian, and how to translate it in the right way to be as much specific as possible. Yeah, this makes the difference.
Right.
Really, yeah.
And I would add that, I mean, another answer to your question is trying to speak Ukrainian. I have to, you move your mouths differently.
Of course.
Than I do.
Yeah.
So I'm literally it's like I'm having to figure out how to shape this part of my dancing body in a way that it's not actually all that different than maybe the first time I stepped into a ballet studio and tried to learn ballet, which was another language, another physical sequence of coordination. So that is a very specific thing that I'm learning. And I am also aware that, we Americans move our mouths in ways that are different than you.
Yeah, and for the end, we want to propose anybody of you, if you want, we are going to randomly choose 2 persons and give 2 tickets for the people who wants to describe any movement you see on the streets, like any pedestrian movement, and make a short descriptions, maybe, I don't know, 5-10 sentences, and post it on the page of the project, Dancing Through Translation. There is a QR code. You can go right from here and make a short description of the movement, and maybe 2 days before the performance, we will choose 2 people, and give you a free ticket for the performance. But anyway, we will be happy to see all of you.
Yeah.
Though it's impossible actually, because that's almost sold out.
On the 15th also?
On the 15th, probably we have 15 or 20 seats,
Oh, that's
not
good.
more.
Where to get the tickets?
There's a lady over there, Katya. She is our PR manager. She has all the information about... actually, the tickets will be on the entrance, on the door, yeah? But if there will be still the tickets, probably not. You can reserve it. With Kate, she knows how, and she can explain you. Or you can, also see it in the group, I think. Yes? So this is the flyers. If you want, you can take it.
Yes. And please, if you know people in any of these other cities, please tell them about us and tell them to come see us. This is a very new thing for me to be able to go to these other cities.
Peter has never been in
Lviv
and Kherson.
And I was only in Kharkiv for maybe
one day.
12 hours,
16
hours.
Yeah.
So most of my time in Kyiv in Ukraine over the last 3 years has been here in Kyiv. So I'm very excited to get some impressions of other parts of the country. Thank you so much for your generous and creative participation today. It always is inspiring for me, and I think for both of us, to come into this kind of space and share ideas and see what happens. So I really am grateful for you all, and grateful to Christiane and to America House for hosting us yet again. Thank you. And we look forward to meeting you again. Please stay in touch. You can find both of us individually on Facebook and whatever.
At least, or even some of us you can find live in Kyiv.
In Kyiv, yes. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.